Oh, hang on. Am I? What's gone on here? Good evening, everybody. Hope you are well. Let me just sort this screen out. What is it? No, that's the wrong one. There we go. Sorted. That wasn't quite meant to happen like that, but here we go. Hope everybody is well. Hope everybody is having a great weekend. It is Sunday, the 27th of April, 2025, last weekend in April. Can you believe it? Now, tonight, I want to talk about this is something we started to talk about at the end of last week's live stream, where we were talking about what do you do when garden becomes overwhelming? When do you find, or what do you do when you start to think, I don't know what to do, or you just get really frustrated? That's what we want to talk about tonight. So I'm going to ask the question, has it ever happened to anybody? Have you ever, even recently, got to the point in the garden where you've just gone, I don't know what to do? Or have you got so overwhelmed? Tell me, say yes, put your hand up, and tell me your story of when that has happened to you. First of all, let's see if anybody is out there. We've got Kate saying good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. We've got Turbo Stream saying good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Nathan, aka Allotted Chef. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. We've got Nicola, evening all from a sunny Cornwall. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas is there. Evening, everybody. Hope you've all had a great week. Good evening to you. Digwell, Noswach Dada Clad I cannot pronounce that at all, I'm afraid, but it's saying something. Stuart Jackson is evening, Richard and Veg Army. Spent the day potting on plants, mostly flowers, but 80 runner beans and 35 cucumbers. Is that for your plant sales? Digwell says, good evening, fellow vegetable growers, in Welsh. That's what he was saying. That's that Welsh language for you. I cannot say it to save my life. Nigel, evening all, a lovely day here in the Black Country. I'm still on the plot. I don't blame you, actually. The weather today has been fantastic. I got up really early this morning. I went out to take some photographs down on a woodland, and I was there by 6 o'clock taking photos, getting the most of a golden hour, and then I went to the allotment and did some work. Gary is there. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Stuart, the gremlins are about again. Indeed. The gremlins are about, but we sorted it now. Oxymoron, says Digwell. Lovely day, Black Country, LOL. Anna Jones is there. Evening, gardeners. Good evening from Steve. Steve, I actually went to visit yesterday on his allotment. You'll hear a bit of it on the podcast tomorrow. Ask Google. Rob says good all, and George, good evening all. I think he's saying there. Hello to you. Chi is there. Hello, good evening to you. Hope you are well. Lovely to see you. Chili Cake, hi everyone. I think that overwhelm comes every year around this time. So tell me your story. What has happened to make you feel overwhelmed? Digwell's put his hands up. Chi says Nosta. I may be missing something there. Scott, good evening all. Good evening to you. Jenny says, hello everyone. I hope you are well. I had a I don't know moment yesterday. I had a cry and then I sat with a coffee and made a plan. I can struggle asking for help sometimes. So sometimes feel out of control. This is exactly what we want to talk about tonight, Jenny. So perfect. I just realized the table's a bit high there. Perfect discussion as it happened to you just yesterday. And that is the reality, isn't it? Gardening is meant to be a hobby. Sometimes, though, it can take over and it does become very overwhelming and we can get a little bit lost, I think, in the enjoyment of it. And this is where we need to have a discussion. What do we do when that happens? Stuart says, yes, last year I had so many plants to pot on for my sales, I just couldn't manage. So this year I've planned far better. Fantastic. We'll get into that there. Turbo Stream saying hello to Digwell. Jenny says, as I need help physically, I can feel like I am a pain to people. You're not. You're not at the end at all. Excuse me. Sorry. Steve says, when you are overwhelmed, make lists. This is exactly what we're going to get into. Tab Extreme says, didn't take advantage of the weather today. Was up all night being ill, so taking it easy today. I hope you feel well. I hope you feel better now. Jenny says, very true, Digwell. I need to grow myself some. Anyway, right. The conversation's going on, so we'll come back to that in just come back to the comments in just a moment. Yeah, overwhelmed. It happens to all of us, doesn't it? It sometimes feels like there's just too much to do, not enough time, and when it gets like that, you don't know where to start. And as Jenny has already said, what she did yesterday, she felt overwhelmed. She didn't know where to start. So she just sat down and had a cup of coffee. And I always think when it gets like that, that is the best thing to do. Sit down and have a cup of coffee. Give yourself 5 minutes, gather your emotions, gather your thoughts. Just give yourself 5 minutes. And then after that 5 minutes, what I like to do, I don't get overwhelmed so much these days, but that's partly because I've put systems in place to help me deal with all the things that I have to do. But more importantly, I also find that I'm trying to be much more organized, and I'm doing a little bit of gardening every day. And when I say a little bit, we're only talking maybe 20 minutes on the allotment after work, half hour in the garden before work. But by just doing a little bit every day, I am finding that I'm able to keep on top of being overwhelmed. But it does help that I do make a lot of lists. I do make lots of to-do lists. And quite often I will just walk around my allotment, walk around my garden, and just write down everything that needs doing. And then when I just have a spare 5 minutes, I go back to that list and I just find something that I can quickly do and I get it done. It works quite well for me. I think sometimes overwhelm comes because we think we've got too much to do, because there's just so much going on in our head. It's like, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. Sometimes I find just writing down what you actually need to do takes away of, or gives yourself that brain space to deal with it. That's my thoughts anyway, but how do you deal with it? Jenny says, very true, Digwell. I need to ground myself sometimes. I forget what I did once then and get frustrated. Absolutely, grounding yourself. Kate says, frequently get overwhelmed and frustrated as I struggle with my health. I have so much I need to do, but I can't always manage. I have a list of smaller jobs that I can do that give me a little win. So this is interesting. Both Jenny and Kate have health issues that are making it or making you feel a little overwhelmed, making you feel trapped. But health issues happen to all of us, and it's something that we all need to learn. Our bodies, we've only got the one body. The garden is always there. We've only got the one body. We've got to listen to it. But at the same time, ask for help if you need it. Nicholas says, life gets so overwhelming that I do nothing. Mental health gets in the way. Nothing done this year. No seeds planted. No brambles cut back. Veg plot totally overground. So now this is another one of these things that Nicola has got an exceptionally large area. And what I think I'm going to say doesn't just apply if you've got a lot of ground, but if you've got a small amount of space as well and you don't know when to start, particularly, let's say you take on your first allotment. One of the first things that I personally think that helped me in originally is that I just broke it down in small sections. I said, right, I'm not going to worry about the whole allotment. I'm just going to concentrate on the first couple of meters or so. I'm going to get that perfect. I'm going to plant that up and I'm going to grow there. And then I will move on from that. But as long as I keep coming back to that original spot every time, that's my focus on keeping that first spot perfect. I can move on from there. So just breaking it down, breaking an allotment or breaking your ground down into smaller areas can actually help with dealing with that overwhelm. Just making it a little bit easier, in my opinion. That's what's worked for me. She says we put too much pressure on ourselves and forget we're meant to enjoy it. Totally. This is something I really wanted to say, is that we are meant to enjoy gardening. It is our hobby. It is our passion. We are there to enjoy it. Rob says, what used to take me an hour now takes me 3. Again, this is something I find. I said on the podcast last week, I'm only 43 now, but I do notice that I have to listen to my body a little bit more because it is telling me it's not happy with the things I used to do. I go back to my 20s when I used to spend a day in the garden, go on the alcohol the night after, and then get up the next morning and be able to garden, then get up the following day and go back to work. Can't do that anymore. Chili Kate, at this time of year, the weeds feel like they grow faster than everything else, and it's a case of making a plan and realizing that things don't have to be perfect all the time. Absolutely right there, Chili Kate. Make a plan. Realize don't things have to be perfect all the time. Well, one of the things that I find when it comes to weeding, particularly on the allotment, and I've mentioned this before, so I always start in the same bed, and I weed that bed. Like 20 minutes a day makes all the difference. Remember, little and often. But because I always start in that bed takes less and less time to get on top of the weeds. And then I move on through my entire allotment. By the time that I've got all the weeds down the far end out, I know that all my beds are pretty tidy. And it's just a case that, again, it comes back to what I said earlier, just deal with a small bit at a time. By breaking it down and concentrating on one area, you end up with considerably less weeds or considerably better plan. Digger says, too many growers fall foul of peer pressure. Absolutely. Just do what you can when you can, and the rewards will flow in. Absolutely. Why do we garden? What is it that we're gardening for? Are we doing it to make ourselves look good? Are we doing it to make other people like what we're doing? Or are we doing it because we want to do it? For me, it's because I want to do it, and that's the important thing. I want to enjoy gardening. Turbo Stream says, I almost gave up the plot last year. The weather was awful, as we all know. Glad I didn't. Exactly. Sometimes, last year was a prime example. We had an awful year last year. A lot of slugs, a lot of snails, a lot of things going on, but we got there in the end. And this year, I'm already seeing there's a lot less slugs and snails. A lot more promise this year compared to last year. Rob says, stop watching what others are doing and concentrate on your own garden. Agreed. Or stop comparing yourself to other gardeners, I think would be better. Just worry about yourself and do what makes you happy. Steve says, splitting up things into little jobs and just start working through. Don't try to tackle everything in one go. Absolutely. Little and often again. Little and often. Once again, I know I say that a lot. It's not my phrase. Some of you know whose phrase it is, but it's so true. It's something I've lived by that really has worked for me. Gary says, I find finding time to garden as well as work and family tricky. When I get behind on jobs, that feels overwhelming. So again, I totally understand that. I work, as you know, my hours are considerably less than I used to do now, which is a good thing. But you know, before COVID, in the summer, I was working 12, 13, 14 hours a day without any, pretty much every week and pretty much every day. But again, I come back to the fact that I used to not worry too much. Little and often did make a big difference. So I would go to the allotment on the way home from work, and that also gave me the chance to sort of calm down before I got home. So I was in a much better frame of mind when I saw the wife. So yeah, work pressure, family, yeah, got the wife and the dog as well. That's a bit of a pressure. These are all things that do get on top of us, do take our time. But I come back to little and often for me has been the biggest way of really getting on top of it. Nigel says, wise words, Rob. Scott says, I'm feeling completely overwhelmed this year. Relatively new job takes it out of me. Not so much time as last year, but I just take the small wins. Yeah, you've got quite a large allotment as well, if I remember correctly, Scott. And I think that is one of those things that you change jobs. I think I didn't realize you were doing more hours now, but that kind of makes sense. Again, job changes. I found this year, changed job, and it is a bit of a change to my old way of working. But we find things out as we go. And I say my old way of working, it comes back to what I was saying earlier, little and often visiting the allotment on a daily basis. Turbo Stream says, I realise I have a bit too much land at the allotment, so just started mulching the areas I'm not using. Absolutely. And this is, again, another thing that I do want to point out. One of the things that we get overwhelmed is because we feel we have too much to do, such as weeding is probably one of those jobs everybody hates. We all need to do it, but it takes up a lot of time. And this is where mulching for me helps a lot with reducing weeding and also reducing watering. So sometimes if it's because you feel you've got too much to do, you have to look at why you're spending so much time doing X, Y, Z, and what can you do to reduce it. Mulch is my big phrase as well. Stuart says, I do find this year so much better as my wife comes outside and helps me, asking for help, good one, with my plants for my sales and our own garden. Last I found our garden suffered because I'd so much sales stuff to do. Again, it comes back to why are you doing your gardening? What is it for that you want to do it for? And why are you, who are you doing it for as well? Digwell says, I followed the marathon today, but I couldn't keep up with it. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Nigel says, retire. I think there's a few retirees in the audience tonight. So having the time does make a big difference. And I found that when I was furloughed, I felt incredibly guilty spending all my day gardening, but I did have so much more time on my hands to spend on the allotment in the garden. And I have to say, then is when the allotment was at its best during that furlough time. So it does make a difference having all the time in the world. But now it's a case we're back at work. We've got to make the best of what we have. What have we got? Jenny says, can I just say, if anyone needs to talk, offload, etc., my inbox is always open, and we are an amazing bunch who are all here for each other. We support each other more than we realize, I think. I agree. We are, I think I try and form a sort of friendly group here. It's the same in the Facebook group. I think we are all here to be nice, good friends. And I think if anybody does need help, we are, go into the Facebook group or message me or anybody else in this. We're friends at the end of the day. And I think it's always good to try and have that chat with each other. And I think one of the things that I find often when we feel we're behind on jobs or we're struggling with certain things and we feel overwhelmed, when we talk about it, we say, like tonight, we're feeling overwhelmed, you suddenly realize there's more people feeling exactly the same as you. And that goes a long way in just helping you feel a little bit better. Scott says, if at the end of the year I have only got 3 meals from a plot, I will be happy as they will be the best 3 meals of the year. Absolutely. Nigel says, retirement gets rid of most cases of being overwhelmed. Time is a great helper. Yeah, time is a great helper. And it is obviously very lucky for some people to be retired. I dream of being able to retire. It's not going to happen for at least 20 years. But I don't want to wait 20 years to be a gardener. I don't want to wait 20 years to have an allotment. I'm doing it now, so I'm going to make the most of it now. It's just a case of being organized, being persistent, and consistent is the big things, I think. Turbo Stream says, my home garden is slowly getting turned into woodland, low maintenance, so I can enjoy it. Excellent. Let's have a, what have we got? We've got, Nigel says, retired under new management, sees wife for details. Excellent. Right, so one of the things that I said earlier is that I like to write to-do lists and have a bit of a plan of what I do. What I do now, and I mentioned this last week, is I use it's an app. It's a Microsoft software you have on your computer, but they all sync together. It's cloud-based as well. It's called OneNote, and OneNote is basically a cloud-based notebook. And what I have to do is when I'm making my to-do lists, I get my phone out. I'll try and show it to you, actually. That might be easier. I get my phone out. I'd say, right, one note. Where and I've got my to-do list. You're probably not going to be able to see these very clearly, actually. Got my to-do lists, and it's a tick list basically on that I can tick off whenever I do anything. But what I also do, I write one for each day. So when I go to bed at night, just before I go to bed, I'll lie in bed, get my phone out, and I just sort of write a tick list for jobs that I want to do the following day. Now, obviously, if I'm working, there's a limited amount of stuff that I can do. So by just giving like one job I can focus on the following day, or just that one job the following day, I put that down there. Next day, I go and do that job and I tick it off. Because it is just purely one job I'm focusing on, it actually doesn't feel very difficult to do. Turbo Stream says, Howard mentioned 2021 when I was ill with long COVID. I never know. Digwell says 43, a mere whippersnapper. Thank you. Thank you. Turbo Stream, best thing I did last year was to hoe the beds each and every time I went down the allotment. Totally agree, actually. Totally agree. A hoe is the gardener's best friend. Keep that hoe running through the bed. There's a saying, if you hoe a bed when you don't see a weed, you will never see a weed. And it's so true. It is so, so true. Idaho's joined. Sorry I'm late. Not a problem. Lovely to see you. Gary says, having realistic expectations on what I can achieve helps too. It's easy to want to do everything, but not always possible. Absolutely. And again, this also comes back to one of the big things when we have an allotment or have a garden is actually, or anything that we want to do, having a plan. Having a plan of what we want to do. Again, this comes back to our organisation side. Having a plan of what we want to do does make a big thing, but having realistic expectations. I'm guilty quite often of sort of saying to myself, right, I want to do this job tomorrow and this job and this job, and I think I'm going to get loads of work done in one day, and then I only get one of those jobs ticked off. I'm very guilty of doing that, so I have to sometimes really realize how much time I can do to one job. Kate is absolutely with Jenny, always here for the veg army, totally. And Turbo Stream says, actually having an allotment was never part of a plan. After my friend died, I sort of inherited it. I do enjoy it now, but I only grow the basic crops. Whatever works for you. Gary says, I'm much happier with my own gardening since giving up Instagram and dishonest reputations of what I should be doing. Yeah, so we've got to remember, if we are comparing ourselves to the likes of social media or magazines, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that go on. A lot of smoke and mirrors that goes on. And sometimes it's done on purpose to make themselves look good, but sometimes it's just the way it goes, particularly with TV. One of the big things I would say, if you think of Monty Don on Gardener's World, he the way it's portrayed is as if he's looking after his garden on his own, but he actually has about 3 or 4 people working with him to look after his garden too. He's pretty much the head gardener, I believe. He's very involved, but there is 3 or 4 people behind the scenes doing a lot of work as well. And trust me, you cannot manage a garden on your own of that size. Rob says, no way does my phone go to bed with me. Oh, mine does. But that's the way it is. But even if it's not in bed, but just sitting down a night before in front of a TV, perhaps writing it up. Richard Golden has joined. Good evening to you. Hope you are well. Everyone's late tonight. I think because of the sunny weather we're having, people were out using the lovely outside, enjoying the sunny weather. BBC, that's probably going to give me a flag. Nigel says, I use my Google Calendar, which is linked to my YouTube email. I enter tasks ahead, and then on the day, you get a reminder. Great for successional sowings, etc. I'm not very good with IT, in all honesty. So I like the idea of this Google Calendar linked to your YouTube email. That does sound really good, actually. again, this is one of those things. Or I one of the things I like to do as well is I have names for days. So Friday's Feed in Friday, which admittedly was, I think it was Rebecca's suggestion, that one, Feed It Friday. Every Friday is when I do my plant feeding. Thursday is when I tend to cut the grass on the allotment, so it looks good for the weekend. I've got a Radish Tuesday because I sow radishes about once a week, just to successionally sow. I'm sowing those on a Tuesday, Radish Tuesday. So sometimes just making I find little reminders, whether it is your Google Calendar or just having nicknames, does make a big difference as well. Stuart says, I have had 3 weeks off school, but I've still got jobs to do. But I don't worry this year. I'm thinking it will get done. I've had a week off as well, and I've still got a lot of things to do, but back to work tomorrow, and I can't wait to get back to work. Adrian has joined. Good evening to you. Oh, have we caught up with all the comments? It looks like we have. Excellent. Thank God for that. We've got caught up with all the comments. So I tell you what, let's go. I've been sent a video from Turbo Stream talking about his seed bed, which is something that came up in conversation last week. So let's go to that and we'll carry the conversation on afterward.
Well, this is my seed bed I made out of pallets and some polycarbonate and some veggie mesh. So let's go for a tour. So we've got a few rows of things growing on. There's somebody drilling across on the allotment. So in the first row on the left I've got some onions. Those will probably be overwintering onions perhaps. I think those are Elsa Craig. And then in the next row I've got some wallflowers. And then the third row is some leeks. The fourth row is some radish, which I sowed the other day, which haven't come up yet. And I've just sowed a row of aquilegia. So you can see what I've done. I've just made a V. With this piece of wood here. Just make a V. Sow the seeds and cover them over. Apart from aquilegias, they need light to germinate, so I've just done them now, literally 5 minutes ago. But you can see I've got some germination coming on. There's a few seeds you have to prick out as you go on. I've got some good germination on the wallflowers, and I've got some good germination on the not the leeks, the onions, Elsa Craig onions. And believe it or not, these will catch up. I've got a few more growing here. There's a few just coming out of the ground there. So that's basically what I do. It's really simple, and the mesh cover just gives it the protection from insects, and it also filters out, so if you get heavy rain, it filters out the raindrops, so it's not quite so heavy on the seedlings. And then I've got another basket of leeks I sowed in February, I think. So I brought these from home, and I'm just going to grow these on and plant them out in a couple of weeks' time. Some summer leeks, and then the leeks in the actual ground here will be the winter leeks. So that's basically how I use my homemade seed bed cum cold frame. I've also got a polycarbonate cover which will replace the mesh in the winter, so I could probably have a go at growing stuff over winter, I think. There you go, there's my little homemade cold cum seed bed.
Fantastic. A seedbed, a great idea actually. I don't tend, this is something I kind of make work for myself, because I tend not to sow seeds directly in the soil, exceptions being things like carrots and parsnips that really don't like being transplanted. But it does make work for myself. And something I've done, funny enough, this week is I have been planting some beans and some peas and carrots and things, sowing those seeds basically directly in the soil in order to try and save me some time. But a seedbed might be just as good an idea as well. It's not something, have I made one before? I think I have. It didn't quite work on my allotment because of couch grass, but my biggest problem is couch grass. But I think over time we could probably do something like that. It's not a bad idea at all. Now, Scott says, I'm redoing the fence at the allotment and seriously underestimated the length of the fence, but should stop the muntjac from munching my crops. See, that's disheartening, isn't it? You put all that work, all that effort into growing some crops, and something like muntjac or any of the slugs and snails or anything other critter out there comes along and eats your hard work. It can be very disheartening, can't it? And that then gets frustrating and overwhelming as well. So I see it, and this is again where things go wrong. I've always turned that into a learning curve. I've turned that into something we can learn from. And that's why I've always said there's nothing negative. It's all about learning or what we can do to improve it. So, as Scott said, put a fence up to stop the muntjac is a big step into preventing that. Slugs and snails. I'm not getting any problems with slugs and snails this year, thankfully, and that's been a good thing, and that's purely because I've encouraged more wildlife into the garden as well. So Anna Jones says a seedbed is an excellent idea. It saves a lot of time and compost. Yeah, it saves money as well if you think about it. Scott says, I'm definitely going to try a seedbed. I can see this saving me lots of time. It's a good idea, isn't it? It's a good idea indeed. Jenny says, sounds like a big job, Scott. Don't work too hard. Jenny also says, love the video, love a seedbed. Scott says, must save lots of space, a seedbed, especially in the greenhouse. Indeed, indeed. Beto says, evening veggies, missed the last 3 weeks live shows with watching the F1, the Formula One. Sorry. Well, that's right. You just got to write down 1,000 times. I will not do that again. I will not do that again. And then send that to me. Steve says, like the use of pallet wood. Pallet wood, of course. We all do love a good pallet wood. Over on Instagram, Toby Clark 55555 has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. We're talking about what you do when you get overwhelmed with the amount of gardening that you have, or overwhelmed with the gardening. Rob says, hope the fence is about 8 foot tall to stop the muntjac. They can jump, can't they? And says hello to Beddoes. Now, I have to admit, these days I don't really get overwhelmed. Certainly not when it comes to the gardening. I've been quite lucky in that front because I have, over the years, gained the experience that I feel I'm not too worried about it. I haven't got too much to worry about. My biggest problem, of course, is weeds, particularly on the allotment, keeping up with the couch grass. And couch grass is a nightmare. I don't know if anybody else, raise your hand if you struggle with couch grass. And I've sort of got myself to the point now that I try and keep on top of it, but I don't worry too much if I don't keep on top of it. I used to worry, and this is sometimes why I didn't pop many videos out. I'm trying to, apart from time, of course, but I used to get worried that the couch grass being so weedy would appear on my videos and I would get embarrassed. So I stopped worrying about it. I deal with it as and when, and we do still get couch grass. I'm not saying we don't, but because I'm constantly on it every day, and I worry about it less. Yeah, it would be great to not have any. I've got systems in place. As I said, I try and go to the allotment every day. I grow things such as green manures. I do mulching. I do what's the other thing? Mulching and companion planting and things where I try and basically beat the couch grass, and it is working. The system I have in place is I will grow potatoes. When I dig out the potatoes, of course, remove the couch grass. Potatoes work quite good because they're a big plant that shade out couch grass, and you mulch them as well, so they're blocking out the couch grass. And when you dig out the potatoes, you remove the roots at the same time. Following that, I then do brassicas and things like that, and that then we mulch those, and that reduces the amount of weeds. And whenever I have an empty bed, I try and grow green manures. I try and never have empty beds because I just find that growing green manures has made a big difference. And green manures are simple to sow. Empty bed, scatter some seeds, depending on what seeds you go in, water them in, off you go. It's as easy as that, and it takes very, very little time. Nicholas says, picked up some secateurs, see what I can get done in this hour listening in. And actually, yeah, that is actually a really, oh God, my seat's breaking on me. That's actually a very good point. Sometimes you've just got to pick up a pair of secateurs, pick up something, and just focus for an hour on doing something. Again, this has always worked well for me. I've found that, again, because I try and do half an hour before work, if I'm out there for half an hour, I'm focused entirely on gardening. I'm not picking up my phone. I'm just focused on doing something. So tomorrow I will be, I got some new plants for my birthday. I got a red kiwi, which looks absolutely fantastic. I've got to pop that into a bigger pot, as well as a fig tree. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow morning, putting those up into a bigger pot so that they are ready to grow on. 10-minute job, as easy as that. 10-minute job. Doesn't take long at all. Bedo says, I will not do that again. Not sure what time next week's race start, but I will watch back later. Fair enough. Fair enough. Steve says, bindweed, a problem for me, grows so fast. Persistence again. Same with couch grass. Persistently trying to remove it when you see it. Easier said than done, I know. And this is again where I come back to making regular visits. Short visits, but regular visits makes all the difference. Tommy Stu says, thanks everyone. Hopefully I have inspired a few of you to try a seed bed. That's how the old timers used to do it. Indeed, indeed. It's given me a few ideas, and perhaps that might be a mission one week. Cheese says, I have a lot of weeds here and there which are allowed to stay where they are, is nothing else. As a result, I have all sorts of insects in a small space. There's a lot to be said for weeds. They are natural flowers. They are natural plants. They are wildflowers, sorry. So if we can get them in, they're going to bring in some insects, pollinators and things like that that we actually need. Again, this comes back to what I was saying, trying to encourage wildlife in. And one of the big things for me is actually encouraging wildlife, particularly things like thrushes, slowworms. I saw a slowworm in the allotment the other day, frogs and toads, things like that. They're going to come in, they're going to help deal with slugs and snails. They're going to help deal with a lot of the problems that we have on the allotment, or ladybirds particularly as well, aphids. They're very good at keeping those down. So encouraging wildlife, and you know I'm a big fan of encouraging wildlife, takes care of a lot of the problems that we might have. Scott says they are tiny muntjac, but they can leap that high. They will almost deserve the crops at that point. I saw my first muntjac a few months ago. Beautiful creatures, eh? Although Digrat says they're another alien invader species. They escaped from Woburn Abbey and are now a pest. I hate that word pest. I've said this time before. I hate the word pest. It's just wildlife that gives us issues. Yeah. What have we got? Turbo Stream says, I have couch grass, but raised beds make it hard to control. I trim the grass paths, edges, and then dig it out once or twice a year. I don't think mulching works, as it just grows under the mulch. Depends on the mulch. Depends on what you're using. Compost, it can grow through. I'm using straw at the moment and grass clippings. Again, it just weakens it. It's more about, it's not going to solve it. It weakens it. It makes it a little bit easier. Andrew Norris has joined. Evening one and all. Andrew, we're talking about when gardening becomes overwhelming. Digger says, I've just wished 50 or so takeaway punnets ready for resowing. My hands stink of black olive soap now, but my fingernails are clean. What are you using black olive soap for? What's special about black olive soap? Let me know. Nigel says, Miami F1 starts at 9 p.m. There we go, after the show then. Gary says F1 not till 9 p.m, but IndyCar is at 18:30. Digra says, I got rid of bindweed by just tearing off the green bits every time. All gone in 3 years. Absolutely. Absolutely Just constantly try and get rid of it. Over on Instagram, Toby Clark is saying, I have elephant garlic growing well. How can I tell when it is ready? So elephant garlic is generally ready around the end of July, August. And what you'll see is that the stem will go dry and brown and look like it's starting to die back. That's when you can tell it is ready. Generally, most garlics, they will grow up until the longest day, and that's when they stop growing. So as long as you've got good growth before the longest day, elephant garlic isn't quite a garlic, it's more closely related to leek. But when that foliage, when it goes brown, you know it is ready. Andrew says, my dew pond is full of fog spawn. I just hope the water stays around long enough for that they become frogs. Is it dry in Croatia as well? It's been very dry here, I have to say. Very dry here. Digwell says, no layout of pest and have no place here in the UK. Same as Asian hornets, giant hogweeds, etc., etc. Yeah, I have a problem with the word pest, and I cannot put my finger on why. It's because I'm an animal lover, really. But yeah, I know what you're saying. They have no place here. Although the thing is that as our climate is changing and we're getting hotter and hotter, there are more and more things that are coming into the country just because they can survive. Same as there was citrus growing outside somewhere, Ventry or somewhere, I heard. Yeah, Andrew says, overwhelming, tell me about it. I have so much grass to cut at this time of year. Actually, that's a good point. Grass cutting, isn't it? I always find that May, it's like a job to cut the grass about twice a week to keep on top of it. I use a lawnmower, a battery lawnmower. I mean, everybody uses a lawnmower to cut the grass, or strimmer, I guess you could. But I have found that with the allotment, because I have a lawnmower at home and an allotment down on the allotment, it's easier to do on the allotment because the lawnmower is already there. When I used to have to take my lawnmower down, it became a bit tricky because I had to remember to take it down and then I could do it. Scott says, local restaurant to me serves a whole roast muntjac. They are very tasty. I do like venison, I have to admit. Maris Fiber, multi-purpose olive oil, liquid black soap. I always use it for washing garden stuff off. No chemicals, etc., and it kills aphids and such. Oh, I'm going to have to get some of that. I'm going to have to get some of that and give that a try. Anna Jones says, I had great success getting rid of couch grass just by pulling it out just as it's coming into flower mid-June. The plant seems to be much weaker at that point. I read the tip in a gardening magazine. It makes sense. It does make sense. Beto says, we have a squirrel visitor most days. Do I need to protect my tomatoes when they leave the greenhouse? From a squirrel, the risk with a squirrel is they could dig up your plants when they try to bury their nuts or they try finding their nuts. Other than that, I don't think it's going to cause too many problems with your tomatoes. What have we got? It's a shared 2 foot. Oh, I'm not sure what's going on there. You don't cut AstroTurf, says Rob. I don't know on that. I'm still mixed about AstroTurf. It has its place, but is that quite what we should be doing? Digwell says, same here. It can only recover 4 or 5 times before the roots run out of sugars to create new growth. Talking about couch grass, yeah. If you again, this like most plants, if you keep on top of the hoeing, keep on top of the weeding, and you make sure that as soon as a bit of foliage pops up above the soil, you get rid of it as soon as. I was talking about this with Steve yesterday, funnily enough. It will die. There's only so much strength in the roots, and the strength comes through the leaves photosynthesizing. So the more you get rid of it, the more you cut it back, and the more you can keep on top of it. Same with bindweed, same with couch grass. The example I was talking with Steve was a rhubarb. The more you remove the leaves, ideally you don't want it to leaf at all. And the more you do that, the more chance you have of beating the said weed, in theory. Steve says squirrels here dig up everything in the garden, so I have to plant out under nets until the plants are bigger. That is the risk. That is the risk. They do need a bit of protection from being dug up. Andrew says, I've given over large parts of the field to be a wildflower meadow. It's lovely to observe the different wildflowers and note where each comes up throughout the year. And there is less cutting. Funny enough, this is one of those things that I know there's a thing, no mow May, isn't it? We're about to head into May, actually. No mow May. The idea being you don't mow your lawn throughout the month of May so that you let those flowers, the wildflowers that are found within your lawn, pop up and produce flowers and feed the bees and things. Now, I've tried it before. I'm not a fan because it didn't quite work with my style of garden, because my lawn basically are my grass path. So I'm still walking on it and disturbing the plants. But the idea is, of course, that you reduce the amount of mowing you have to do by just letting it become a wildflower area, just letting it do its thing. And then if you have to, or you need paths, you just cut paths through where you're likely to walk. We're finding this actually in our graveyards local to us. They're now starting to just not so much cut the grass down, they're letting it grow up big and wild in order to try and reduce costs of cutting the grass, but also encourage wildflowers in. And I've got to say, it looks quite good. AstroTurf, no couch grass. Yeah, she says a muntjac have been around so long they're naturalized. I don't consider it a pest either. Not like some things, grey squirrels. Not like some things, grey squirrels. We all like sweet chestnuts. They're not native. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like the word pests. I mean, I think isn't it rabbits? They're not naturalized in this country either. A lot of things that are in this country shouldn't be. I think it's rabbits. They were never in this country. The Romans brought them over, if I remember correctly. Digwell, I actually have in mind yesterday to pick up the ash seeds and spoiled compost. Talking about AstroTurf. If you go to the pine woods in Wales next to the sea, there are hundreds of muntjac. Absolutely. I tried pelican at my local exotic meat restaurant. Very nice, but a heck of a bit. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Stu says, just a reminder to like, subscribe, follow, and share, etc., etc. Absolutely. And Digwell says, no mow May is not always suitable for the UK, a USA thing, because of our different wildlife seasons. Yeah, I didn't do it. I did it, but I'm not doing it again. It just didn't work for me. You got to remember, my garden, my lawn is pathways because I want the grass cuttings for compost material or mulch. So I don't have wood chip paths. I have grass paths. And yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. Right. Let's go. So I haven't made any of the videos this week. Time's been on top of me, but I have tackled some of the things. So for the cooking, last week you sent me the recipe to make a frittata. And I made it. I've just cut a little bit out because I've already had my dinner. So to make this, this is a cheese and onion frittata. I've avoided potatoes because, as you know, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to avoid carbs. So all I did was I chopped up one onion, nice and thinly, I guess you could say, pop that into a bowl. I then grated about the same amount of cheese and put that into a bowl as well, into which I cracked in 6 eggs, which from my chickens out in the garden, gave it a good mix, making sure all the egg yolks were broken and mixed together really, really well. I then got a frying pan on the hob with a bit of butter and olive oil in the pan. Olive oil is to stop the butter from burning over a medium heat. Let it all melt, get it nice and warm, and then I poured in the mix. Cooked that for about 5 minutes, and then I put that frying pan straight in the oven as well. Gas mark 4 for about half an hour, and that's when it came up like this. I've got a whole one of these for the rest of my lunch this week. So let's give this a try. Cheese and onion. Let's see how it tastes. Very, very nice. Very nice. I mean, cheese and onion frittata. It's nothing to get excited about, is it? It's lovely. It's lovely. Very nice. I'll give that a good 8.5 out of 10 because it's not the most imaginative. It's not something that really jumps out as being amazing, but it is nice nonetheless. So there we go. Cheese and onion frittata. If you've got a recipe you want me to cook for next week, let me know. We'll have a vote on it. Digwell says a Brussels sprout and artichoke frittata is called a fart harder. He's getting full of them tonight, isn't he? And Rob said that quick tonight, Steve. Yeah, absolutely. Digwell says a frittata is a good dish to use up whatever you have in the fridge. Yeah, I agree with that. It is a good way to use up whatever you have in the fridge. Because Amanda's been away this week, I've eaten the fridge because I cooked a whole chicken up last Sunday and was using that throughout the week. Cooking on my own is easy, so I didn't have much to use up in the fridge. And what we had for dinner was no good today for frittata. But yeah, good way to use things up in the fridge. Time for a quick swig. So if anybody has any suggestions on what we could cook next week, then please get in touch. I'll give it in there. Jenny says, how is everyone's sweet potatoes getting on? See, I'm pretty much at the point I'm going to give up on mine. There's nothing. There's just nothing going on. It's starting to rot away. It's just not doing anything. I don't know if anybody else has had any luck with theirs. I just only thought I saw something. No. It's just not worked at all for me yet again. I've saw some sweet potatoes plants for sale in the garden centre, so I'm going to try and buy those to plant those. But as trying to make my own slips once again has failed, and I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Well, we got Scott says tortilla is with potatoes, frittata is without them. I thought frittata had potatoes as well, Spanish frittata, but I bow down to your superior intellect there. Rob says my missus makes soup with our leftovers. Amanda does that a lot as well, actually. I'm not a soup lover, really, sometimes. Gary says, I'm giving up on my sweet potatoes. No real regrowth. I'm the same. My sweet potatoes are coming from Marshall's. cheated. But hey, sometimes it's what you have to do. On Instagram, Toby Clark 55555. What's the one veg that you have struggled with? Personally, carrots are my nemesis. What's the one veg you have struggled with? For me, swede is probably the one veg that I've struggled with. I've done okay last year out of swede, actually, but normally I find swede are the one veg that I do struggle with. I need to get some veg in the swede sown, actually, soon. But swede are the ones. I just don't get them as big as what you would expect or what you get from a supermarket. So that for me is my nemesis at the moment. But we're always trying to improve and work on that. Scott says bacon wrapped asparagus with dippy eggs for the recipe. Oh, that sounds good. Have I got any asparagus ready? But yeah, we could do that. What does everybody think on that? Jenny says, oh no, that's a shame. Talking about the sweet potato there. Andrew says parsnips is his nemesis. Parsnips. A lot of people are going to say parsnips, I suspect. Digwell says it's celery for him. Nathan says cauliflower. Scott says celery. It's interesting. I thought a lot of people were going to say parsnips. Jenny says I've ordered some slips as my purple sweet potatoes were too small to make sweet slips. she says. Never done any good with sweet potatoes. Tried them 3 times. Yeah, I've grown sweet potatoes by buying the plants or buying slips in, but I've never had any luck at trying to get my own slips growing. Kate says leeks celery are her nemesis. Tallow stream onions, but I do okay with cauliflowers and parsnips. Anna says radishes for me, always bolt and go woody. Lots of water, keep them moist. That's the key with radishes. Keep them moist. I know that. Steve says, haven't had a decent Swede for a couple of years. We'll try it again this year. Absolutely. Jenny says cauliflower. She's right.
No, she's got something in her mouth.
Oh. Oh, Rue. Sorry, Roxy's just walked in with something in her mouth because she's attention seeking. I could hear her barking. It's all right. I've got her. Rob says, I do okay with onions. I think many of us do, but there's always one plant. There's always something, one person or one plant that we will all struggle with. And some people, it's onions. What have we got? Steve says, but trying celery for the first time this year. Again, lots of water for celery. Absolutely lots of water. What have we got? Scott says, let the radishes go to seed and eat the pods. They are beautiful. Digger says, missing ABBA to Steve. Missing ABBA. Talking about Swede. Missing ABBA. Swede for me are my nemesis. I can grow them. And last year I did not too bad out of them, but not brilliant. And that's the common theme. They're not brilliant. Ace of Base, Digwell. Ace of Base. I don't know that one. Jenny says celery loves to grow in clay or by a pond. Yeah, it's a coastal plant if I remember correctly. It loves a lot of water. It's a very water-loving plant. I mean, 90% of it, I think, or something like that. I mean, you're probably going to correct me on that, but 90% of celery is water, and that's the key thing. Lots and lots of water. I find that they actually grow quite well in the veggie pods, and they also grow quite well in the autopot system, if that is of any interest to anybody. Shall we have a look at the photos? Shall we have a look at the photos? It feels like a good point to have a look at some photos because there's a good lot of photos to go through, as always. So what have we got this week? First of all, Kate. She's booked tickets to go to Gardener's World Live, which is in June or July. June, I think, at the NEC. She's going on the Thursday. Unfortunately, I'm going on the Friday and Saturday, so I won't see you there. But if anybody else is going on the Thursday and would like to meet up, let her know. But she's also booked herself to go on a mushroom growing masterclass. I suspect that is with the Cayley brothers, who I've got to catch up with them soon and see how they're getting on. They're not far from me, and they're actually on my... It doesn't work there anymore. They were on where my stepbrother's farm worked. Chili Kate has put a bench on her new allotment patio. This was a birthday present, getting the allotment patio built, and here you go. Now a bench on it to give you somewhere to stand or sit, and look at. I actually think a bench or somewhere to sit on an allotment is incredibly important. Gives you the chance to see and talk about overwhelmed, funny enough. Gives you the chance to make a note of, see what you're actually doing. A seat is actually quite important for dealing with overwhelm. Now, Gary has been sharing this information on the moon phases. This is something he's mentioned in the group. This isn't the Gary, I think, in tonight. I could be wrong, but he's growing by the moon, and this has just been a bit of an explanation on why we get the phases of the moon. Very interesting, I've got to say. Now, Digwell's Bean Gallows. He's been posting this all over social media. If you are watching him on YouTube, I believe there's a video out now of how he made these bean gallows. The idea being the runner beans and French beans, they're going to grow up these and grow nice and strong and produce good food. I'll be interested to see how they actually turn out as well. It looks like it could be a rather good result, actually. It looks very stable too. Now, Scott's harvested some rhubarb, and he's made a fantastic rhubarb and ginger cordial recipe, which is on the veggrowerpodcast.co.uk right now if you want to go and check it out and make it yourself. Something I'm going to give it a try myself because I think it sounds like a really nice, refreshing drink. Rhubarb and ginger. Now, Daniel got himself a veggie pod for free, which I'm not jealous in the slightest. He was asking for a bit of advice on how to set it up, etc., etc. Love a veggie pod. I've spoken about this a bit tonight. It's a fantastic piece of kit, well worth investing in. But they are expensive, so to get one for free was bonus. Now, Nathan, his cardoons, I've got to say, these are looking fantastic. I'm trying to grow cardoons this year and struggling with them a little, but these look fantastic. Cardoons are a smaller version of globe artichokes, but I believe they're related, but not the same plant. And he's got himself some old gardening books. We do like a good old gardening book, and it's interesting. Like the book in the middle, Successful Gardening Without Digging, No Dig Gardening in the 1950s. And this is a photo that I don't normally post my photos up here, but I was hanging out with this chap. If anybody recognise him, let me know. I saw him on Thursday at Petworth House, which is a really good chat going on. Please do keep your photos coming in. You can post them in our Facebook group. You can send to me via social media or email me, richard@theveggrowerpodcast.co.uk. We may also, it's not up and running yet, but there may well be in the future, if you are posting on, say, Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you tag me in it, we may also be doing that in the future. So something to look forward to. Let's not move that just yet. So yeah, something to look forward to. If that makes it easier to share photos, if you post, I prefer them in a Facebook group because it gets the group being used. But we could be using Instagram to get photos in the group as well if we do it the right way. Over on Instagram, talking of which, Just Your Cup of Chi has joined, and I thought that's the same Chi as in the group tonight. All right, where were we? Oh, I've gone past them. I've really gone past them, actually. I got to get some new mouses soon because I keep my mouses are really dying a lot. Where were we? Right, there we go. Jenny says, celery loves to grow in clay or by a pond. I've read that one, actually. I didn't bother with Swede last year, but still got a decent one growing. How did that happen? Steve says, we'll plant out the celery in the garden instead of a plot so I can keep an eye on them. They do need a lot of water. Chili Kate says, if it's with the Cady brothers, Kate, it's brilliant. I'm pretty sure it will be with the Cady brothers. Kate says it is. I'm looking forward to it. There you go. Scott says, celery grows amazingly well in the fens, apparently. I'm on the fens, or what used to be years ago. Fenland celery tastes amazing and available in Waitrose from a local farm once a year. Yeah, I saw it when I drove that way last year, the year before. I saw it all growing up there as well. And Steve says, grew up in the fens and can confirm that. There we go. Anna says that bean structure looks great. I was quite impressed. I have to admit, it does look proper stable. Really black soil. Yep. And Digger says the gallows worked very well a few years ago, but it was not a sturdy build. It looks very sturdy now. My concern is the base, is the bottom bit that sits on the ground, is that bigger than the top? I'm guessing it would be, otherwise it would be top heavy. Gary Hook, not me, but by Grown by the Moon. It looks very interesting and makes sense in some ways. There's a science behind it. Like so many things, there was a lot of science behind these things. Rob says Frosty. Yes, it was Frosty. Brilliant photo as well. Anna Jones says Frosty. Yeah. Jenny, great photos, everyone. Digwa says, give us a clue, Richard. Nigel says, it's the Veg Grower podcast bloke. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Gary says, nice shirt, Richard. Thank you. It is a nice shirt, actually. I've got to get more shirts. I'm trying to wear shirts a bit more when I'm out and about these days because I think t-shirt. I'm wearing a t-shirt now. He says, t-shirts are like make me look like I'm trying to be young. Yeah. There is a 30-inch metal post holding it down. Okay, so you staked it into the ground so it wouldn't move. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Digwa says, oh, I was serious. No idea who that was. It was Adam Frost, for those that didn't realise. It was Adam Frost from Gardener's World. He was doing a talk at Petworth House, which is not far from where I grew up and not that far from where I live. This was on Thursday. So I popped down there to have a look around the house and the gardens and see his talk and have a chat with him, call up. I haven't seen him for... I saw him last year, but he was at Gardener's World. I was in the green room and he looked absolutely knackered, so I didn't get the chance to chat to him properly. He was coming in as I was leaving. He had his own show going, but it was nice to catch up with him properly this year and see how he was. Really good talk as well, I've got to say. It was about garden design, so not my normal type of talk that I go for, but it was a really good talk. I don't know if anybody here has seen Adam Frost talk live in a show or event, other than on the TV, where it's probably scripted, but really good talk because he made everybody laugh. Very confident on stage. I guess you would be like that, but it was also very simple talk. Very simple talking about garden design, and it was very much like the first thing, and this is kind of reminded me something that I've always said. It's all about the soil. Gardening, it's all about the soil. You've got to look after the soil. You get the soil right, your plants will be right. And I was reminded of that, and the reason why I mulch so much after hearing his talk. We do like to do a lot of grow your own, or looking after the soil. Rob says, I saw him at Malvern the other year, and all he was interested in was selling his book. Yeah, he did mention his book just the once in his talk this week, but yeah, I've not seen him push that before in my experience. Right, I've just looked at the time as well. It's flying by tonight. I think what we're going to do is go to the mission. Now, I'm going to do this live. You've probably seen this already. Let me move my old cup out of the way. Go to this live. It is to make this Lego dibber. So I've managed to get some Lego off eBay this week. I couldn't find it in any charity shops at all, but I found it. And this is, well, I've made this up because it's going to fit into this quarter seed tray, like so, which it does do. And that should work quite nicely as a dibber. And I had to use these bits because I ordered them. I didn't really know what I was ordering, to be honest. It's been years since I got any Lego. So I've got this and I went with that, and I've just made it up to the size I needed. Obviously, I haven't glued it in or anything. Now, to make the dibbers, I've got some more Lego bits. I'm going to do this live on camera, and perhaps you can tell me if we're doing it right as we go. So I got these bits. They're like a conical Lego piece, and I'm just going to put these like so. I'm trying to get them at the same sort of distance. That's not going to work. No, it can work. Yeah, it will work. I think these are going to be the bit that pushes into the soil, these conical bits. I should probably bring it a bit closer. Yeah, they should bring it into the soil and make the holes in the soil for us to grow or drop seeds into. There we go. There we go. It's coming together quite nicely, I have to say. Good thing is we can adapt this. We can change this around. This is Digwell's idea. I'm not going to take credit for it. He's made plenty of these, but it makes a lot of sense. So there we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pieces there. That should give us enough for 16 seeds. We'll put the rest to one side. Now, one of the other things I've seen Digwell had on his, I've got some more bits. Again, I'm not very clued up with Lego these days. I used to have loads of Legos back when I was a kid. My mum gave it to my brother. Not that I was upset about it or anything. But Lego has changed a lot. I was talking to this with Digwell. It seems to have changed a lot. But what we want to make here is just a nice little hand grip. We'll make it like this, just to give us something to push against and hold on to, like so. Sorry, you know, I hate doing these sort of things and not being able to talk and trying to hold a conversation while doing it live, but we can do it. Oh, what? I've just seen a comment. What was it? Marks out of 10 from Digwell, please. When it's built. I think that probably is about enough. There we go. So that is our dibber built. Now, what we want to do is actually see if it works. And we'll try. I'm going to push that down, actually. There we go. I don't think the camera's going to pick it up, but I can see it's made some little indents in that, in which we can sow some seeds. And what I'm going to do is sow some Brussels sprouts. So I've prepared myself for this, believe it or not. What I'm doing, I've got this, I don't know if anybody's seen these seeders things. You sort of squeeze it, stick it in, release it, and it creates a vacuum as it sucks, in theory. No, it's not working. Not working. The idea being the vacuum sort of sucks up a seed, so it makes it easier. It's not working, so we'll just do it by hand. Single seed in each one. Nicely spaced apart. Maybe a little bit too close, in all honesty, but hey, that's the great thing with Lego. We can adjust it and rebuild it if we need to. I do like it though. I do like it a lot because it does speed things up. There we go. Brussels sprouts are sown in that. So, over to you. Was that a pass or fail on that mission? Right, let's go to the comments. Jenny says, I think Frosty will be at the Rutland show in August. I think he's probably at all of them, to be honest, at some point. Nigel says, Frosty served me gin cocktail at Malvern. Fantastic. Rob says, you're lucky. Oh, lucky, yeah. Jenny says, Rutland show is at Oakham Showground in August, Rob. It's a RHS one, I think, or something like that, isn't it? Stuart says, marks out of 10, please, Digwell. Indeed. And Nigel says, need to get a kid in to do the Lego. Well, we can do it ourselves. Did not know they did one. I live in Leicester, so not far. It's new this year, this show, actually, I believe. I can't remember who's doing it, by. You need to super glue the 1x1 cones in place. I will probably super glue them once I'm happy with it. I'm going to try and change it around and see how we get it, if it works out any better. Rob says, love low cedars. I bought one this year. Typical, it didn't work when I was trying to show it to you, did it? 9 out of 10. Thank you very much. I'll take that. I like it though. I've got to say, Digwell sometimes come up with some incredibly good, simple ideas of how we can make things that help our gardening. really easy. And I never thought of using Legos for doing that. You need the right colour of tips, says Rob. I thought I had, because I tested it. I never know what colour relates to what. I tried it before I went live, and it worked fine. And of course, go live, it didn't work. Nigel says, I got one of those cedars, money spent I will never get back, like most things, isn't it, like that? Stuart Jackson says, that is a pass, a mission completed. Rob says, great for sowing petunias and small seeds. Didn't he did well, sister? Stream did well. Excellent. Digger says, I use a bamboo skewer to pick the seeds up, dip it in water and touch the seed, it sticks. Interesting. Gary, pass. Surprised it stayed together, but can see how it's quicker and end up with evenly spaced seedlings. Yeah, that's my thought. And actually, that'll be easy. That'll be easy. You can't really see the holes in them, but they'll be easy to prick out. And also, they're all going to be at the same sort of depth too, the seeds, because all those bits are the same depth. I'm going to be experimenting with more in the future to try these out. Nigel says, I fold a DT Brown seed label down the center and roll the seeds down the groove. Yeah, I've seen you doing that. There are a lot of ideas for seed sowing, isn't it, out there, but never one that really does what it says on the label. Over on Instagram, Phoenix Biochar CIC has joined. Welcome along, lovely to see you. Rob says, bigger the seed, bigger the hole in the nozzle. Yeah, all the nozzles in mine. Where is it? As we're having to talk about this. So I've got these other two nozzles. They all look to me to be the same sort of height, same sort of depth. Oh, no, actually, I tell a lie. That was the medium one. So let's try the small one and see if that works. We'll get into the rent in a moment as well. Over on Instagram, Roasted Cheese has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. This is the much smaller one. Nope, that didn't work. So let's try the bigger one. Oh, that did work. That did work. You can't see it very well because it's such a small seed, but it did work. There we go. There we go. We've learned something there. Digwell says, I'm making 20 or 30 dibbers to sell at the plant sale on the 10th of May. There we go. If you are in Digwell's plant sale, where's your plant sale actually, Digwell? Where are you selling these plants that people might come along and buy these from you? Let us know. Stuart, actually, have you done any plant sales this week or anything like that you want to announce? You need the bigger one. I've got, yep, okay. I've learned there. Or don't press too hard for small seeds. I tried both small pips and large cones, but the larger ones work best. There we go. Stuart says, little dip at the end, then dip into the pack, then place the hole and repeat. Interesting. Digwell says, Slimbridge Village Hall, 10th of May, 101M. Yeah. But yeah, Slimbridge Village Hall on the 10th of May. I don't know where Slimbridge is, so I can't answer that. Right, it is time now. Have we done everything? We've done the mission. We've done the rest. Don't forget, I need a mission. And what was the recipe? I think somebody suggested a recipe, actually. But we need a mission for next week, a challenge that you can come up with. Anyway, my nose is so itchy today. It's time for a Richard's rant in the last 10 minutes of this podcast. Not a podcast, live stream. Now, this week's rant is based on this, a magazine, Gardener's World magazine. I very rarely buy magazines anymore. Used to buy a lot of them. They were only sort of £2-3 back when I used to buy them. So I used to buy 5 or 6 a day. I used to have them in the van. I could read them while having 5 minutes. I used to enjoy reading them, but they got more and more expensive. And this is where my rant is, because we bought this copy of Gardener's World purely because it does the 2-for-1 entry to garden to gardens. It's like a nice booklet. We buy it every year for that very reason. But it was a £10 magazine, £10, and it only came with 2 packs of seeds. Back in the day, gardening magazines, they used to come with lots of seeds. I mean, I remember Grow Your Own, it used to get like 6 packs of seeds every month. And now the price has got more expensive and there's less and less seeds. Of course, inflation and things like that do come into it. I understand that, but it is annoying. £10 for a magazine. I was a little narked at that. Little narked, to say the least. And I probably wouldn't be buying it again, in all honesty. Yeah, it's only because of a 2-for-1 entry to gardens that we bought it. But that's my rant. I'm not happy with the price of things. You have to be careful using a big one. Okay. Stuart says next sale is the second Saturday in May. Thanks. Oaksey Village Hall. Let us know. 10 a.m. Digwell is there. 10 a.m. Digwell says I just mix those small ones with seed and scatter. It was sad and scattered a lot. Rob's never tried that way. Back in 5 minutes. Challenge: create a seed bed. There we go. That could be the mission for the next week. Create a seed bed. Prof Green Academy TV, lovely new sub here. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining in. Please do give us a follow as well. Toby Stream says, I get Garden Answers free with my bank account each month. See, this is it. I used to like reading magazines, particularly when I worked in a petrol garage overnight. I would read the magazines all day long, but they were very reasonably priced back then. Now, £10 for a magazine just seems too much money. And given that the magazine earns most of its money from the advertising inside the magazine, that £10 is more for the distributors. So it goes to the news agents and the people distributing it, which is usually WH Smith's. It just beggars belief that it's got that expensive. I did find that the seeds issued with some mags were not the best quality, poor germination, mixed seeds, etc., etc. That can be true, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I never had that problem myself. Poor germination, possibly, but yeah, I can believe that. Turbo Extreme, although I wouldn't buy it for the price of the front cover. There we go. There we go. Digwell says I get a warning letter with my bank account each month. Stuart Jackson says must go. So see you all next week. Great show once again. Toby says only on Instagram. Toby says only subscribe to Gardener's World now as the weeklies are too dear. Exactly. I mean, I know some people would love, do enjoy Gardener's World magazine as well. And I've got to admit, I have quite enjoyed reading it. But £10, I couldn't justify buying that every single month. I just think it's a little bit too much. Then Jenny says, an Amateur Gardener is fantastic magazine with normally 2 or 3 seeds for $3.99. Lucy Chamberlain, Rosie Irving, Toby Buckland, etc. I read it cover to cover once a fortnight. Yeah, I can't think of her name. I can picture her in my head. She brought it back because Amateur Gardening did go under, as did Grow Your Own. They did disappear for a period because the business folded. But some people managed to bring it back, including Amateur Gardening. In fact, Amateur Gardener are doing a show in July, which I might go to as well, not up the road from me, actually. Talking to shows, next Saturday, I'm off to Gardener's World Spring Fair. Anybody else going? I doubt it. Digwell. Kate says you can read them free on Libby app. I've been told this, actually. I've been told you can read them for free on the Libby app or other apps. I've never managed to get hold of it, though. I've never managed to do it. I have been told you can read them for free. Jenny says, I've subscribed to Kitchen Garden, which I'll be ending soon as nothing new. That is one of the problems with gardening magazines as well. But I think that is just because it's the nature of gardening. Every year, there's pretty much every April would be the same articles. But if you think about it, every April we're doing a similar sort of thing in the garden. So there is an element of, there is an element that it is repeating itself, but it has to sometimes. Garden mags features and topics repeat every 12 months. Oh, I just realised, Nigel, you sometimes write for Kitchen Garden, don't you? So I hope you didn't take that as an offence, but yeah, £10. And as you say, they do repeat the features, but that's gardening anyway. It does repeat itself. That's why I think most of us content creators in the group, we try and keep things interesting. We try and change things up to try and be different. Can be cheaper to buy discount book. It can be. And Gary says, talking of overwhelm, I would get overwhelmed with the amount of seed packets I would get when I bought magazines. Good point. That's a very good point. But yeah, there was a lot. Again, I know with my seed club, that's why one of the reasons that I've chosen seeds that can be sown in that very month, so that they are done that month and they're not hanging around. Ginny Kim Stoddard, that's it. That's the person. She brought amateur gardening back somehow. I don't know how she did it, but well done to her. Yeah, that's the person I was thinking of. Garden Mags subs slightly cheaper if you get digital versions. Yeah, I said I still prefer paper. I still prefer actually reading a paper. Digra says, I bought a digital version and I got these seeds 10001111. You guys sometimes are absolutely hilarious. But do you agree with me? Do you think magazines are a little bit too pricey, or do you disagree with me? I guess we've only got 2 minutes of the show, so I've probably asked that question at the wrong time, but I'd love to know your thoughts. Jenny says, Kim has done an amazing job. She is super lovely. And works super. Again, I absolutely agree with that. I saw her talk last year at Gardeners World Live. I sat down and had a coffee with her. Lovely person, beautiful garden as well, vegetable garden that is in Wales. I think she's originally from Brighton as well, if I remember correctly from the conversation we had too. Toby says, thanks for everything you do for the home grower community. You're a legend. Thank you very much, Toby. That's absolutely lovely to hear. I do try in my hardest to keep everybody happy. Nigel says, problem I have with mag seeds, often not the varieties I want to grow. Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of trying different things all the time, trying different varieties, different things. So I do like variety. I do like trying things. And sometimes when you get a different type of seed sent to you, I mean, I got loads from Simply Seed this year. And the varieties I wouldn't normally grow, but they have been given me the opportunity to try and experiment with them. So I don't mind that myself, but that I can see if you've got loads of seeds like most of us have, they can become a little bit tiresome. Gary says, I get the same / better info from places like this podcast and this live show. I think it's because it's more, I think the thing with content creators like myself and Nigel, Digwell, people who are putting the content on YouTube who don't have a massive production team behind them, you get a real thing. We haven't got hundreds of money to go and buy a load of compost or horse manure. We haven't got hundreds of pounds to go and spend on that. So we have to do it in a way that represents everyone, I think is what makes us a little bit more real. Scott says, you know they are pricey when you can get them off the bank as a reward because they can't shift them otherwise. Yeah. Nigel says, mags way too dear, more ads than ever, which generates them more income. They get all their income from the ads. The price that we pay generally goes to the newsagent and the supplier to the newsagent. Rob says, I'm subscribed to Kitchen Garden Mag. Once I've read it, I sent it to my mate in the Falklands along with most of the seed packets that come with it. Excellent. Nice one. Absolutely. 2 readers for the price of 1. Anna Jones, I just look upon Garden Mags as an occasional treat now. I agree. Yeah. There's times, I want to admit, there is times that a magazine just hits the bill just right, isn't it? When you're, I don't know, going on a train, traveling, a magazine is just the right thing for that. Anyway, it is now 7:30. So did we come up? We came up with a recipe. Hopefully, Jenny, do you remember what the recipe was? We also came up with a mission for next week. Next week, what do I want to talk about? Supports, actually, plant supports. I was going to do about mulching, but I think we'll do mulching the week after. Plant supports. How do you support your beans? How do you support your peas? That's what I want to talk about next week. Right, guys, it's time to wrap up and go. I'll just go through these comments, but we'll get out of here. Turbo Stream says, no point in me buying a 2-for-1 when I go on my own. Billy, no mates. Yeah, I understand that, but sometimes it's good to visit. Nigel says, how about next week topics? Gardening and multimedia platforms. That might be a topic we could cover at some point. That might be more of a winter topic, though. Gardening and multimedia. Oh, what do you... Everyone's leaving now. Remind me that we'll do a poll, Nigel. We'll do a poll about that because that actually could be a good topic. The NHS support mine, says Rob. And Hargrave, thanks for another chat. See you all next week. Indeed, I think it is time to get on out of here. We will be back next Sunday at 6. I've got a podcast coming out tomorrow, which you can hear what's been going on here on the at home, here down on the allotment, and we visit Steve's allotment as well. Well, guys, you take care. I'll speak to you again next Sunday at 6.